Hey everybody, this is my second video to more talk about specifically this lesson. I just briefly explained in my last video, if you watched it, what cubes are. It's a strategy we're using for word problems and testing. A lot of kids look at these word problems we're given and sometimes get a little bogged down and intimidated by the fact that it might be a whole paragraph worth of a question, but it's something they need to do. It's something they're going to be doing the next few years when they go to middle school and high school, I believe. So we already did that. If you want to see the cubes video, click on the cubes link. It's either in my YouTube channel or attached to this lesson. You'll find it. If you found this, you'll find it. But we're going to talk about Mission 4, Lesson 7. What we had started really doing was questions like this. 3/5 of 30. 3/5 of something is 30. These are not the same. They involve the same numbers, but they're structured differently. And what I need the kids to realize is this is not the same as this. You need to think about it yourself. It really helps with these if you say it out loud. If you say it out loud, it makes it easier to draw it and then explain it and kind of think if the answer you're getting is reasonable. What we are using tape diagrams today. That's where you just draw a bar and basically partition it into equal parts. And I'll show that in a minute. So number 1, 3/5 of 30. This of really means multiply. When there are a fraction involved, 3/5 of 7 groups of, not just fractions, I guess whole numbers too. 1/2 of 85 groups of, anything of means multiply. So when I see 3/5 of 30, I'm going to draw a tape diagram because I know I'm dealing with 3/5. So I'm going to show what 3/5 look like on a diagram that I can then label. Okay, so I'll break it into fifths in equal parts, and I know that I'm dealing with 1/5, 2/5, and 3/5. I know that this whole thing, my whole is going to be labeled as 30, and if that's true, what they would have learned past years that this part right here, without the fraction, just this thing right here, is 30 divided by 5. That's 30 divided into 5 equal parts. Imagine it without the shaded part. And they would know that 30 divided by 5, assuming they know their math facts, is 6. Each fifth is worth 6. So 1/5 of 30 is 6. So 3/5 must be, well, 3 groups of 6 is 18. So they should have put 18 as their answer. This one wasn't too difficult. Most everybody got this. Moving on, though, once we moved to this structure, it got a little hairier. We had a lot less common sense kind of working on our side, and I just wanted to clarify. So 3/5 of something. We don't know what the whole is, so we don't know this number. I'll draw another 3/5 in a diagram. Sorry, I'm doing this through my screen, so if my lines get a little fuzzy, that's why. So let's see, 1, 2. There's fifths, okay? We're still showing 3/5, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5. Now, 3/5 equals 30. So, I'm sorry, 3/5 of something is 30. So 3/5 is 30. So that means from here to here is 30. It's not the whole thing. We don't know what the whole thing is. We'd like to. But if I just look at this part and zoom in, let's see if I can do that visually really quick. I hope I don't mess up my whole video. But if I just focus on this, that is 30, where's my pen? 30 divided into 3 equal parts. And if I do that, my brain quickly goes, oh, well, that's 10. That's 10, and that's 10. That means this must be 10, and this must be 10. The whole is 10, 20, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this one is 50. It's kind of introducing kids into algebraic thinking, which is really hard, but the strategy we use makes it really concrete, kind of obvious what's going on and how they are different, okay? They're not the same answers. They involve the same numbers, but the two are not the same. So right now, take a second to predict, if you can, about the next one. Okay, this is the same word problem I used in my cubes video that we worked with. Cubes is a strategy we use for word problems that we want the kids to use during testing and just make sure they answer all the parts of the problem, really assess the problem correctly. Mrs. Johnson baked 2 dozen cookies. 2/3 of the cookies were oatmeal. How many cookies were oatmeal? Well, okay, so that's 2/3 of 2 dozen. 2/3 of 2 dozen. So you need to know that a dozen equals 12, first of all, and you need to know how to structure this. So this is 2/3 of a whole. That's going to be, instead of, I said we were going to predict and we didn't, sorry. 2/3 of a whole, is that this kind of structure or this kind of structure? We're given the whole, it's going to be like this. So here's my tape diagram. We're in thirds, okay? We're looking at 2 of the thirds. 2/3 of 2 dozen. The whole is 2 dozen, which is 2 groups of 12, which is 2 times 20, or I'm sorry, 2 times 12 equals 24. So my whole is 24. So that's, looking at this whole thing, it would be 24 divided by 3. That should tell you that each piece is worth 8. And 2 groups of 8 is 16. So 16 cookies were oatmeal. So you can go to Google Classroom and find this, I believe was yesterday's lesson, Mission 4, Lesson 7. It's called an exit ticket. You'll see it in their classroom. It's worth 100 points. I divided it into 3 parts, so that's 33 points about for each question. So if you had 33 points, it means you got 1 correct. If you got 66, it means you got 2 of the 3, and 100 means you got all 3. So if your kid's struggling with this, I'll actually add an extra practice. I'll try to link some extra practices up there for those parents that want to really go that extra mile, and I'm going to try to have them available in class this week. Thank you so much. Bye. Have a good night, everybody.